So, Namaskaram, good morning, and this is a continuation of chapter number 1, GST introduction in India. When we were discussing GST introduction in India, we had already completed what is the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. We have also finished our discussion on features of indirect taxes. Okay. Then genesis of India, how GST came into India is not that important as I told you. Okay. What you should remember is 101st Constitutional Amendment Act that we will discuss in some time. What is GST? Yeah, this discussion was very important. I have told you this thing. GST is a value added tax. It is applicable technically on value addition done by the supplier. And there is a continuous supply of ITC from manufacturer to continuous supply or transfer of ITC, input tax credit, from manufacturer to distributor, distributor to wholesaler, wholesaler to retailer, and ultimate burden will be borne by the final consumer. And this is what we have seen. In idealistic scenario, there should not be any cascading effect. That means there should not be any tax on tax under GST law. But let me tell you, I'll teach you some practical aspect where cascading effect happens. Okay, eventually it happens, but the impact is very much low as compared to earlier laws. So there should not be cascading effect ideally under GST law. Next, why do we need GST in India? Obviously, because earlier system was not sufficient. Earlier system were very much having deficiencies, a lot of deficiency. It was not enough to cover all the aspects. And what used to happen if you are, just supplying goods in earlier system before 2012? I'm just telling you. Before 2017, what is to happen? Please try to understand. If you are supplying goods, you are registered under state VAT. You are registered under state VAT, okay? And therefore, you are not able to get any credit of service tax or excise duty, okay? Because service tax and excise duty are the central taxes. It is a central government taxes. So what used to happen, a goods supplier was registered only under state VAT, but he is to pay service tax also because he is to take a lot of services. What kind of services one trader will take? This is a trader, no? He's a supplying goods, that means he's a trader. What kind of services one trader will take? Chartered accountancy services, cost accountancy services, company accountant services, engineering services, consultancy services, marketing services, renting of factory, renting of warehousing, transportation services, security services, housekeeping services, and all these services were taxable under service tax law. And he is to pay service tax, but he was not able to get the credit of service tax that he has paid. Though service tax and VAT both are the indirect tax, but credit of service tax or credit of excise duty paid on manufacturing of the goods was not available. No, was not available to trader. Why it was not available to trader? Because he was not registered under central government law. He was registered just under state government law. Now the reverse scenario. If you are a service provider, if you are a chartered accountant, if you are a cost accountant, you will also purchase furniture. You will obviously register under service tax and you will get credit of service, but you will not get credit of VAT. Why will you not get credit of VAT? Because you are not registered under state government. Are you getting this? You are not registered under state government. Therefore, a chartered accountant, when he purchase laptop, when he purchase air condition, when he purchase furniture, when he purchased any goods for official purpose, he was not able to get the credit of VAT, value added tax, which is the sales tax. Value added tax means a sales tax paid by dealers to the state government. So VAT was paid to the state government. So are you able to understand the problems? The major problem? The major problem, are you able to understand? Please acknowledge yes or no. Earlier, what I'm trying to say, earlier, a trader was not able to get central law credit, and a service provider was not able to get state law credit. So this was the situation. As I told you, state taxes were not available as a credit against central government taxes, and central taxes were not available as a credit against state government taxes. And therefore we needed a law which can pass on the credit at both level, or assessee should be registered under one law. That means now whether you are supplying goods or you are supplying services or you are supplying both, you have to get registered under the same law, and that is GST law. Definitely you have to get two registrations. One is the central government registration and another is state government registration, but it's not a separate registration. The registration is same, ID will be same. Under GST law, you will be paying tax to two government, but on the single ID, single registration, only one return. This is the one issue that assessees were facing before GST. A second issue, try to imagine if you are a big bazaar, or you are a supermarket having pan-India operation. Pan-India operation means your big bazaar shop is there all over India. All over India means you are having it in Maharashtra, you are having it in Karnataka, you are having it in Kerala, you are having it in Tamil Nadu, you are having it in every state or every union territory of India. Okay, and that to multiple location. Like in Mumbai, there might be more than 50 or 40 big bazaars. We don't know exactly. Okay, because almost every small region is having one big bazaar for serving them. So this is how it is there. Now, can you imagine how many state law? Because earlier state government was having full freedom to frame their own law, and therefore state government were making their own law. Unfortunately, some of the state government had made law in their original language. Like Maharashtra government have written Maharashtra value added tax in the Marathi. Okay, and when you go to department, they also speak in Marathi. Similarly, if you go to Kerala, it might be in Malayalam. If you go to Tamil Nadu, it may be Tamil Nadu, Tamil language. So this is the problem. Now, just now somebody has logged in with the name of Oppo. Please change the name. Okay, keep your own name. Next. So what I'm trying to tell you is this. Earlier, a big bazaar has to follow Maharashtra VAT separately, Karnataka VAT separately, Kerala VAT separately, Tamil Nadu VAT separately, Gujarat VAT separately, Delhi VAT separately, Himachal Pradesh VAT separately, because every state was having their own law. Their forms were different, their website was different, their due dates were different. Unfortunately, their tax rates were also different. Like the same product which I'm able to sell, say for example, this product is at 12% taxing, like 12% in Maharashtra, it might be taxing at 2% in Gujarat and 14% in Karnataka. Nobody knows, because every state government was having full freedom to choose their own tax rate, and therefore look at the complexity that one big bazaar as a company, you imagine a chartered accountant of a big bazaar has to go through. Why? Because every state government has a different form, different law, different tax rate, different system of valuation, different exemptions, and therefore a Maharashtra chartered accountant or Maharashtra cost accountant was not able to practice in Karnataka or Kerala unless and until he studies the state laws of Karnataka and Kerala as well. And therefore the professionals were having limitation only to one particular state, professionals who were working in indirect taxation. But right now what has happened in GST? GST states, okay, though the state laws are different, all state law must match with the central government law. So whatever is written in a CGST law, almost 99.999%, I should not say 100, almost 99.999% is same under state law as well. And therefore, if a chartered accountant or a cost accountant or any GST professional goes through CGST law, he has automatically understood all state government's laws as well, and the rates are not different. If rate under CGST is 9%, definitely under HGST also it is 9%. If rate under CGST law is 6%, definitely under HGST it will be 6%. If the rate here is 2.5%, definitely rate in state government law is also 2.5%. What I'm trying to say here is this: now a GST practitioner or a GST Suvidha provider can provide services pan-India basis. Not only pan-India basis, Once you understand GST, you can provide services globally, because all major countries are having indirect tax system similar to GST. Almost the whole world is having a GST, and countries which are not having GST system till now, they are going to adopt it sooner or later. So please understand, this is not the only state law, this is not only the Indian law. GST law you can study and practice all over the world. Almost 80 plus countries as of now are having a GST system, and therefore we professional cost accountant, chartered accountants of our country can truly become now global tax consultant. Please understand this. Okay. So this is one of the latest law and international law. Next. So there were a lot of deficiencies in indirect tax system before. I don't want to go into all the deficiencies because that's not major point of discussion that we are having here. So what GST has done, GST has a broad solution. Please understand, GST is the cure. GST is the cure for ill existing indirect tax regime. Whatever illness was there, whatever deficiencies was there, GST is the solution for all those problems that we were suffering in indirect tax. Now, unfortunately, you people have never seen earlier indirect tax, but I'm teaching indirect tax from 2008. And I truly love the system of GST, because earlier I had to read VAT, state VAT. Okay, if I'm teaching in 3 different states, I have to learn 3 different state VAT law. I had to learn separately excise law. I had to learn separately say service tax law, and then there were different says in a particular law, different versions. Like excise have three or four different versions. Custom law was having 2 or 3 different versions, and therefore it was very complicated for me to read all the law. Right now, if I have to study, if I have to become expert of indirect taxes, I just have to go through 2 different laws, and that is GST law and secondly custom law. If I'm having control over GST law and custom law, then I can call myself as an indirect tax practitioner or GST practitioner or expert of indirect taxes. Okay, look at this. So they are saying, see, this is a practical thing now. This is not academic thing. Current government from 2014 have launched different schemes. So what are those different schemes, sir? Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Kaushalya Vikas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Startup India, okay, Digital India, Smart City, Mudra Finance, Jobs for All, Port-led development. So there were a lot of schemes launched in India, but please understand, lot of scheme launched in India, but indirect tax system was missing. Okay, the proper indirect tax system were missing, and therefore, see, this GST is completing the business structure in India. Without GST, the business structure was incomplete. Why? Because if you propose to any foreign entity to start business in India, the first question they would have raised is that your country's taxation system is so complex that is beyond understanding. And literally it was beyond understanding, because 29 states having 29 different variations of indirect tax system. How one foreign country, maybe like Walmart or maybe Apple, if they wanted to start business in India, it was not possible for them. Compliance was hell complicated. And in the ranking system, there are almost 200 countries, and in the World Bank ranking system of ease of doing business, India was having 100th number. Before GST, we had number 100. Our rank was 100. That means if a businessman has to start business in any of the foreign country, then obviously India is not an option. Why India is not an option? Because ease of doing business was not there. After launching GST, immediately we had crossed almost 25 or 26 country, and we became 74th rank. And then demonetization happened, and then a lot of things have happened. Like in the banking system has been improved, then Digital India e-governance system has been improved, Company Act has been changed. So many things have been changed. Foreign direct investment policies have been changed. By doing all those things, now we are somewhere in the rank, in 43 or 42, that kind of rank we have achieved. Ease of doing business, and therefore we are moving faster towards the positivity. Now please understand, Goods and service tax, the crucial piece in India's development strategy. You can see here that is a crucial piece, important piece to create one economic India. As I told you, India was a divided nation, divided by state, divided by district, divided by regions, and therefore it had to have a one economic. That means India has a one market. Earlier, India was not a one market. Gujarat was a separate market. Tamil Nadu was a separate market because the taxes were different. Let me tell you, some of the people, if you know, because you stay in Mumbai, if there is a marriage in your house, some of the people used to travel to Surat, that is in Gujarat, to purchase sarees and all. Why? Because in Surat, there was a low VAT rate on sarees or garment industry. And in Maharashtra, the VAT rate was very high. So if you wanted to purchase goods in bulk, people used to travel from Mumbai to Surat is hardly a 3 hours or 3.5 hour journey. So for them, it was not difficult to cross the state border and go there on that side, purchase the goods and then sell it or use it in Maharashtra to save the tax. People used to travel. But now, is there any point of traveling? Answer is no, because in Gujarat and in Maharashtra, the rate on garment would remain same because CGST Act will try to control or influence HGST Act. And therefore, truly now we are having one economic India. So far as economic is concerned, now India is a one market. Philip, to Make in India initiative, this is also you should know that if you want to promote development in your country, you cannot be dependent on agriculture sector, you cannot be dependent on service sector. So these two sectors, though it is contributing very good amount of revenue to the people of India, but still you cannot remain dependent on them. These two sectors, the primary sector is the agriculture sector, and third sector is service sector. If you want to see a real development in India, then manufacturing industry must develop. If you see any developed nation, what are the developed nations? Japan, okay, Russia, USA, all the developed nations after World War II, they were completely destroyed. Their economy was completely destroyed. But today they are called as a power nation. Today they are called as a superior nation. Today they are a developed nation, not because of their agriculture sector, not because of their service sector. They are called as a developed sector because they are having developed manufacturing segment there, and whole world depends on their goods. German goods, Russian goods, Japanese goods are being not only sold in their country but globally. And the same method or same strategy India should have adopted long back. We are already late, but we are not postponing it any further, and therefore a current government is focusing more on make in India. That means manufacture in India. Okay, and for that GST was very important law. Unfettered flow of goods and services. So if you wanted to transport goods and services from one state to another state, earlier there was a hell lot of requirement of compliance. Now that compliance has been reduced to one single window of GST. Okay, increase economic activity to boost employment. Definitely, if you increase economic activity in India, if you set up more new factories in India, your development of employment will happen. And if employment happens in the country, then people will get money to spend. And if people earn money, they will spend. And if they spend, it is going to bring more money in the market. And this is how circulation of money will happen. And more circulation of money leads to more development in the economy. So you need to understand this aspect as well. I'm just covering general aspect. These are not important from point from examination perspective. These are important from understanding perspective. Okay. Next. Okay. The next point is important point. Framework of a GST introduced in India. Framework of GST, and for that we have to write notes as well. You can see my second note. Second note, concept number 3. What was the concept number 1, sir? Concept number 1. Concept number 1 was features of indirect taxes. Concept number 2. What's concept of GST, where we have majorly spoken? It is a value-added tax. There is a continuous chain of tax credit. The burden is borne by final consumer. No cascading of taxes. And fifth one also you please add. GST is the destination-based tax. Based consumption tax. I will come back to this sentence later on. There is a question in institute module. GST is a destination-based consumption tax. This is the fifth point. So this is the concept of GST. To explain this point, I had created this very big table by teaching you what was there in old system and what is there in GST system as of now, so that you should understand what is cascading effect, what is value-added tax. So these points were done. Now the concept number 3 is the framework of GST. In framework of GST, we are having various points. So point number 1, this is point 1. Dual GST. So give the heading. Point number 1, dual GST. Internationally, what happens is this. Please understand. Internationally, not in India, in foreign countries, usually we will have one GST, that is national GST. They call it national GST. That means there you go to any part of the nation, you have to pay only one GST, same rate, and majority countries are having same rate also. Only one rate, no matter what thing you are purchasing, there will be single rate, single controlled, single window, only one act in that particular country. That is called as national GST. Okay. There are nations who cannot bring national GST because of the vastness of or geographical area, maybe USA kind of country, where majority laws are created by state government, not by the central government. Okay. So there are countries which are having state GST, only state GST. So there are two types of countries internationally we are having. Countries are which are having only one GST for the whole nation, and then there are countries which are having only one GST for each state. So there is no central GST, there is only state GST. And then there are countries which are very few countries are having central GST plus state GST. Central GST plus state GST. That means this is a dual model. This is a dual model. Apart from India, Brazil is a country according to my knowledge. Okay, where we are having dual GST. Apart from India, Brazil is a country where we are having dual GST, and France was the first country to introduce GST. Okay, France was the first country which has introduced GST in India. And apart from India, Brazil is the country where we are having dual GST. So what do you mean by dual GST? CGST plus AGST, because if you are standing in the Mumbai, you will pay both the taxes. Okay, you will pay central government CGST and you will pay to your state government AGST. And this is what we have already discussed on intrastate supply. On intrastate supply, that means supply within the state, we pay two taxes: tax to central government in the form of CGST and tax to the state government in form of AGST. And let me tell you a good news is this. Okay. Whenever there is an interstate transaction, interstate means one state to another state. Whenever there is an interstate transaction, okay. So what do you mean by interstate? Interstate means you are supplying goods from one state to another state, maybe from Maharashtra to Gujarat. Your goods are going there. Okay, this is a truck. So this is interstate. So you cannot apply Maharashtra GST. You cannot apply Gujarat GST, and therefore central government intervene and they say you please charge IGST. IGST is nothing but integration of these two. Integration of these two, central and state. So if central GST law was 2.5% and state GST law was 2.5%, IGST would become 5%. Okay. If this is 6, this is 6, this will become 12%. If this is 9, this is 9, this will become 18%. If this is 14, this is 14, this will become 28%. So what is IGST? IGST is nothing but just the integration of central and state GST. And when do we charge IGST? Whenever there is the interstate supply. Now, if you literally see definition of interstate supply from IGST Act, you will understand They are not only talking about interstate, they are also talking about inter-UT. Inter-UT means from one union territory, maybe Andaman Nicobar to Dadra Nagar Haveli. Andaman Nicobar to Dadra Nagar Haveli. Dadra Nagar Haveli and Andaman Nicobar both are union territories. So if you are transferring goods from one union territory to another union territory, if you transferring goods from one union territory to another union territory, still you will charge IGST. Still you will charge IGST. Or if you are transferring goods from one union territory, maybe Div and Daman, let's think about Div and Daman to Maharashtra, Div Daman to Maharashtra, okay, still you will charge IGST. That means one state to another state, one UT to another UT, one UT to a state or state to a UT. If you change, and even I'm telling you, import and export are also called as deemed interstate. So on those things, IGST will apply. So please understand, any transaction other than intrastate, will have charge of IGST law. Now, sir, what do you mean by union territories and what do you mean by state? Ignoring what happened recently, so far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, because that particular discussion we can handle only if our institute update our study material accordingly. As of now, we have to study the situation which was there before merging Jammu and Kashmir with India in form of two different territories. Okay, so what has happened with Jammu and Kashmir, or before that, we had 29 states. In India, we had 29 states and we had 7 union territories. This is the general knowledge now. Okay, we were having 29 states and 7 union territories, but out of 7 union territories, two union territories were removed from here. And they were added to this state criteria. Which two? Delhi and Puducherry. In GST law, Pondicherry is known as a Puducherry. They write spelling as a PUDU. Okay, so Delhi and Puducherry along with state government. So why these were separately removed here? Because these are having their state legislature. They are having state legislature. So what do you mean by state legislature? State legislature means they are having state assembly who can make law for them. Okay. So 29 state can make law for 29 state. Delhi can make law for Delhi. Puducherry can make law for Puducherry because they are having their state legislatures and therefore they can make their own GST law. So in a GST law, we call them state. Okay. In GST law, we call them state. 29 plus 2 union territories, we call them state, and therefore we are having 31 state GST laws. We are having 31 states. See, practically we were having 29 states in India, but when it comes to act, we are having 31 state GST act, and for balance 5 union territories. So which are those 5 union territories? So I call them CAD. Okay, Chandigarh, Andaman Nicobar, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Div and Daman and Div, CLAD, and Lakshadweep, CLADD, CLAD. I call them CLAD. Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Andaman Nicobar, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Div and Daman. These are the 5 small union territories which are having no state legislature. They are not having no state legislature. They are not having any state legislature. That means they cannot make law for themselves. So who will make law for themselves? Obviously central government. Whenever you cannot make law for yourself, central government will make law for you. For these 5 union territories, some people think we are having 5 different UT law. No, we are having only one UGST law. We are having only one UTGST law. You can call UTGST law. UTGST means Union Territory Goods and Service Tax Act. For 5 we are having one. For this 31 we are having 31. 29 states and 2 two small union territories having state legislature. For them, we are having 31 state laws. But for these 5 small union territories, we are having only one UT-GST law. Okay. Now my meeting is about to end. We will relog in when it is done.